No one's spoken to me about it. I've heard all the rumors, and listen, they know where to find me.
Pierce Brosnan, the suave and charismatic actor who brought James Bond back to the big screen, has always been known for his charm, professionalism, and effortless wit. From the casinos of Monte Carlo to high-stakes action sequences, he captivated audiences worldwide with elegance and intensity. But behind the cameras, in the glittering world of Hollywood, there was one person he truly hated more than anyone. It wasn't a rival for a role, a scandalous co-star, or even a critic in the press. This was someone who got under Brosnan's skin in ways few people ever saw, a person whose presence created tension on set, tested his patience, and ignited a private resentment that he kept hidden for years. While the public only saw the polished performances and charming interviews, Brosnan harbored a strong disdain for this individual, a secret that surprised even longtime fans. The story reveals a rarely seen side of Hollywood, the clash of egos, creative differences and personalities that collide behind the spotlight. Brosnan, known for his calm and diplomatic demeanor, didn't lash out publicly, but those close to him knew the truth. It was a simmering frustration that lasted through projects, interviews, and social events, a feud so personal that it left a lasting impression on one of the most iconic actors of his generation. Now, in candid recollections, Pierce Brosnan finally opens up. The person he couldn't stand, the conflicts that tested him, and the lessons learned from navigating Hollywood's treacherous social waters are laid bare for the first time. This isn't just gossip. It's a glimpse into the human side of a legendary actor, one who could charm the world while quietly carrying the burden of dislike. Pierce Brosnan is often remembered for his impeccable charm, sharp suits, and effortless charisma, the kind that turned him into the face of James Bond for an entire generation. On screen, he exudes confidence, wit, and sophistication. Off screen, however, even the most composed actors encounter people who test their patience in ways no one else can. For Brosnan, there was one individual who did just that, someone he truly, deeply disliked. It wasn't a simple rivalry for a role or a clash of creative visions. This person had a way of getting under Brosnan's skin, quietly undermining him while maintaining a polished public facade. To those around them, it might have seemed inconsequential, even amusing. But for Brosnan, whose career was built on professionalism and precision, the constant friction became a source of real tension. During the filming of one high-profile project in the early 2000s, Brosnan began noticing patterns, missed cues, subtle attempts to draw attention away from him, and a persistent need to assert dominance on set. The actor in question had a reputation for charm and influence, but Brosnan quickly realized that charm could mask a deep disregard for others. Every interaction with him left Brosnan frustrated, questioning how someone so outwardly likable could be so disruptive behind the scenes. Despite the irritation, Brosnan maintained his composure. Known for his diplomacy and ability to navigate Hollywood's complex social dynamics, he didn't publicly criticize or confront the individual in a way that would jeopardize his career. But the tension was there, simmering under the surface. Crew members and fellow actors noticed subtle cues, a tightened jaw, a sharp glance, a quiet sigh when the person entered the room. It was clear that while Brosnan's charisma remained unshaken for the cameras, privately, he felt a deep sense of exasperation. This ongoing struggle shaped Brosnan's approach to work. He became even more disciplined, preparing meticulously for scenes and interactions, ensuring that the co-star's antics could not disrupt his performance. In interviews years later, he admitted that handling this particular personality was one of the toughest challenges of his career. "You can be charming, you can be patient," he said. "But some people just push buttons you never knew existed." Interestingly, this hidden frustration also revealed a side of Brosnan rarely seen by fans, the human side of a legendary actor. Beneath the impeccable suits and suave smiles was a man who had limits, someone who valued respect, professionalism, and mutual decency. When those boundaries were crossed repeatedly, even a calm and experienced actor like Brosnan had his breaking points. What makes this revelation so striking is that Brosnan's dislike wasn't rooted in personal malice or jealousy. It was grounded in principle, a refusal to tolerate repeated disrespect or undermining behavior. In a world where ego often reigns, Brosnan chose to navigate with dignity while silently contending with someone who consistently tried his patience. By the end of the project, Brosnan had mastered the delicate balance of coexistence. He maintained his public composure, delivered flawless performances, and ensured the show ran smoothly. Yet privately, he could not deny the truth. There was one co-star who had pushed him farther than anyone else ever had. And for that, Pierce Brosnan would always remember the tension, even decades later. While Pierce Brosnan radiated charm and professionalism on screen, the reality behind the cameras could be far more complicated. During one of his high-profile projects, he encountered a co-star whose behavior tested him in ways no one else could. On the surface, this actor was charismatic, engaging, and well-liked by the crew, the kind of person who could charm directors and win fans effortlessly. But behind that polished exterior, there was a streak of arrogance and unpredictability that clashed directly with Brosnan's disciplined nature. Brosnan, known for his meticulous preparation and focus, quickly realized that this co-star's behavior wasn't merely eccentric. It was disruptive. Scenes were repeatedly delayed due to missed cues, unnecessary improvisation, or disregard for the agreed-upon direction. While most actors could adapt, Brosnan found himself repeatedly adjusting to accommodate someone who seemed intent on drawing attention to themselves at every opportunity. The tension wasn't loud or dramatic. There were no public outbursts or confrontations. Brosnan understood the stakes. The success of the project depended on teamwork and maintaining professionalism, even when faced with a personality that tested the limits of patience. Instead, he used subtle strategies to cope. He studied the co-star's tendencies, anticipated disruptions, and often prepared alternative approaches in private to ensure scenes went smoothly. Crew members and other cast members noticed Brosnan's quiet but unmistakable frustration. A tight jaw during a frustrating scene, a controlled sigh when the co-star wandered off script. These were glimpses of a man pushed to his limits. Yet Brosnan never let it interfere with his performance. On screen, he remained flawless, calm, and composed, the epitome of the professional actor. Behind the camera, however, the internal tension was real and persistent. Interestingly, this rivalry revealed a different side of Brosnan, one that fans rarely saw. He was human, susceptible to irritation, and deeply aware of the injustices of working alongside someone so self-centered. His dislike wasn't personal in the sense of hatred over trivial matters. It was rooted in principle. Brosnan valued respect, collaboration, and accountability, and when confronted with repeated disregard for those values, he could not ignore it. This ongoing tension had a subtle effect on his work. Brosnan became even more methodical, more precise, and more focused on maintaining control over his own craft. He avoided unnecessary interactions with the co-star outside of professional obligations, relying on diplomacy and tact to navigate the difficult working relationship. By managing his emotions carefully, he ensured that the public and the production were none the wiser about the simmering resentment behind the scenes. In interviews years later, Brosnan spoke candidly about the experience. "There are people in this business who push every limit you have," he admitted. "Some you can tolerate, some you respect, and some you just don't like, and that's okay. You learn to handle it because your focus has to be on the work, not the drama." The co-star's behavior may have created tension, but it also revealed the strength and resilience of Brosnan's character. He could maintain grace under pressure, uphold professionalism, and navigate the challenges of Hollywood's complex social dynamics, all while privately managing a strong personal dislike. This period, though difficult, became a defining moment for Brosnan, a testament to the discipline and patience that would carry him through decades of acting success, cementing his reputation not just as a charismatic star, but as a professional who could handle even the most challenging personalities. By the time Pierce Brosnan had firmly established himself as a leading actor, he had already faced his fair share of Hollywood challenges. But the co-star he truly disliked remained a constant source of tension throughout multiple projects. While the public saw only the polished, effortless performances, the reality behind the scenes was far more complex and draining. This actor, whose charm and charisma could easily win over directors and crew, had a habit of overshadowing others. Improvisation without coordination, jokes at inappropriate moments, and subtle attempts to dominate scenes made life difficult for anyone committed to discipline and professionalism. Brosnan, who prided himself on preparation and precision, found these behaviors infuriating. What made it worse was the co-star's ability to mask his arrogance behind a friendly, amiable persona, which left others blind to the disruption he caused. Despite the irritation, Brosnan never allowed it to affect his performance. He developed strategies to cope, such as anticipating the co-star's tendencies and adjusting scenes quietly to maintain flow. Directors and crew quickly realized that while Brosnan was calm, he was not oblivious. He had an almost surgical awareness of what was happening on set, and his ability to navigate disruptions without breaking character became a hallmark of his professionalism. However, the personal toll of this ongoing tension was significant. Brosnan often recounted that he felt drained after long days of shooting with this co-star. He had to constantly remind himself to compartmentalize feelings, focus on the task at hand, and not let personal frustration compromise the project. For someone of his stature, this was not merely a test of patience. It was an exercise in endurance, emotional intelligence, and self-control. Colleagues noted subtle indicators of his frustration: a clenched jaw during particularly trying scenes, a cold tone when addressing the co-star in private, or a deliberate choice to minimize personal interactions outside of professional necessity. These were the small signs of a simmering dislike that never spilled into public drama, but remained deeply felt. Interestingly, this difficult dynamic taught Brosnan valuable lessons about leadership and resilience. He realized that even when confronted with someone who challenged every limit of his patience, the true measure of a professional was how they responded. By maintaining grace under pressure, continuing to deliver stellar performances, and avoiding public confrontation, Brosnan demonstrated the poise and integrity that would define his career. In reflective interviews years later, Brosnan admitted that the experience left a lasting impression. "Some people you just don't click with," he said. "And that's okay. The key is to stay focused on your work, keep your dignity, and let your craft speak louder than the tension around you." His words highlighted an important truth about Hollywood, that even amidst egos, rivalries, and clashing personalities, professionalism and composure can turn potentially destructive situations into demonstrations of strength. For fans, this revelation might come as a surprise. How could the suave, unflappable Pierce Brosnan harbor such dislike for someone on set? Yet for those who know the pressures of film and television production, it is a reminder that behind every star-studded smile are real human struggles, unseen tensions, and personal battles waged quietly behind the cameras. The co-star in question, whether knowingly or unknowingly, became a defining figure in Brosnan's career, not as a friend, mentor, or collaborator, but as a test of patience and resilience. In navigating this fraught relationship, Brosnan solidified his reputation not just as a beloved actor, but as a professional capable of maintaining grace under even the most challenging circumstances. In the twilight of his career, Pierce Brosnan took time to reflect on the experiences that had defined him. Not just the roles, the awards, or the fame, but the challenges, conflicts, and difficult personalities he encountered along the way. Among these reflections was the one co-star he openly admitted to truly hating, a revelation that surprised fans and offered a rare glimpse into the human side of a Hollywood legend. Brosnan's disdain wasn't born of petty jealousy or personal vendettas. It was grounded in principle. He valued professionalism, respect, and discipline, and this particular co-star consistently disregarded those standards. Scenes were disrupted, schedules ignored, and subtle manipulations attempted, behaviors that tested Brosnan's patience over months and even years of collaboration. For someone whose career was built on preparation, composure, and precision, tolerating such behavior required extraordinary self-control. Despite the tension, Brosnan never allowed the feud to interfere with his craft. On screen, he remained the epitome of charm, elegance, and grace. Behind the scenes, however, the frustration was real, a quiet undercurrent of dislike that he managed with careful diplomacy. Crew members and fellow actors noted the subtle signs: a tightening of the jaw, a measured tone, a deliberate distance in personal interactions. It was a simmering animosity, handled with discretion, that revealed Brosnan's capacity to balance personal feelings with professional obligations. Over time, the rivalry also became a lesson in resilience. Brosnan learned to navigate personalities that challenged his boundaries without compromising his work. He developed strategies for maintaining focus, managing irritation, and preserving his energy for the craft he loved. "There are people in this business who push every limit," he reflected years later. "You learn to rise above it, because the work is bigger than the drama." Interestingly, this difficult relationship highlighted another side of Brosnan's character, his integrity. While he could have aired grievances publicly or allowed frustration to spill over, he chose to maintain dignity and professionalism. In doing so, he not only protected the project, but also solidified his reputation as someone who could thrive under pressure, regardless of the personalities around him. For fans, learning about this hidden dislike adds depth to their understanding of Brosnan. It's easy to see him as the charming, unflappable James Bond, but the reality is that even the most polished and composed actors face personal struggles. Brosnan's handling of this co-star reflects the hidden challenges of Hollywood, the egos, the tensions and the personalities that clash in ways unseen by the public eye. Ultimately, the co-star who tested Brosnan became a defining figure in his career, not for talent or collaboration, but for the lessons imparted through conflict. Brosnan's ability to remain graceful and committed to his craft despite this tension demonstrated a level of professionalism that few could match. It was a reminder that true skill and charisma aren't measured solely by fame or applause, but by the capacity to navigate adversity without losing composure. Looking back, Brosnan admitted that the experience shaped him in profound ways. He became more patient, more strategic, and more appreciative of colleagues who shared his values. The feud, though private, left a lasting mark, a testament to the strength, resilience, and integrity that defined Pierce Brosnan both on-screen and off. In the end, the story of Pierce Brosnan and the one co-star he truly hated reminds us that even legends face challenges, and that managing conflict with grace is sometimes the most heroic act of all. Behind the smiles, the charm, and the cinematic glory lies a human story of patience, endurance, and quiet triumph.